Robbie, today's jockeys, younger jockeys, they obviously have big boots to fill, the likes of yourself, AP McCoy, Davy Russell, Ruby Walsh, just to mention a few. They've obviously been extremely successful. But what young jockeys can you see dominating the racing world in the years to come?
There is a good array of talent coming through. I think we all forget, like, Jack Kennedy seems like he's been around for years, but he's still only 22 or 3 years of age. He's been very unfortunate with injuries, and I hope for Jack's sake shortly he's going to get a full run of the season. I think when he does, he's going to be champion jockey. I think he'd have gone very close this year. He was 30 plus winners clear of Paul Townend when he got his fall. So Jack's got a long career ahead of him, and he's going to dominate for a long time to come. Obviously, with Willie's stable being as powerful as it is, whoever's stable jockey to Willie is going to have a huge say in championships, and Paul Townend is at the moment in the hot seat, so he's going to be riding big winners. But Paul won't like me saying it, so I'm going to say it. He's not getting any younger. And there's a huge bunch of talent coming along behind. Jordan Gainford, Sean O'Keefe, Dara O'Keefe. There's some very, very good jockeys. Sam Ewing is another really exciting young jockey. There's a great bunch of talent coming along behind, and they were all only kids when Ruby and Barry and AP and them were riding all their big winners, Paul Carberry, so a lot of them don't even remember them. Yeah. But they don't know what boots they're fitting. They're just their own men, and they're all intelligent, good riders. So I think the standard of jockey is okay for a few years to come anyway.
Yeah, it sounds to be anyway. You're obviously still very young. You're only 41.
Of course, yeah, only a chap.
But a lot has changed since your day, so to speak, and the industry now versus maybe when you were starting off. What changes have you seen, positive and negative?
I suppose positive. I started off and socialising was a huge part of being a jockey. Enjoying yourself. You spent a week in Galway for the festival. Cheltenham was only 3 days back in them days. Aintree was a bit of a hoolie as well. So a jockey's lifestyle has definitely changed for the better. Yeah. And I don't think if when I started riding, if we continued that lifestyle I'd have rode till I was 41, I don't think that would have happened. I think that's definitely changed for the better. All sports are the same. Athletes have changed their outlook, and for that reason, medically has got much better for jockeys. The recovery period, because they're healthier and looking after their bodies, is so much different. But you know, I enjoyed both sides of it as well. I enjoyed the social part of being a jockey, and I enjoyed then changing and being more professional about the whole thing. And the young lads today are much more professional. The jockeys in general today are much more professional than we were when we were starting off.
I suppose there's a lot of them that would look up to you as well, and with all the experience that you have, I'm sure some do approach you and ask for advice, but what would you give advice to young jockeys starting off?
Be positive is the most important thing, because as I talked about earlier on, the ups and downs of a jockey, the breaks, the getting jocked off, horses, these things are hard to take at times. So you have to be positive, stay positive. I was so lucky when I started racing. I was in a car going racing with Barry Geraghty and Paul Carberry, two of the most naturally talented jockeys I ever rode against, but also they were mentally extremely strong. Nothing ever got them down. If they had a bad day, the drive home was like the day never happened. You know, it was just forgotten about. My father always installed that in me as well when I was young. If you had a bad day, forget about it, move on. The next day is another day, and that's the way I tried to be. And you look back, I knew when I made a mistake. I didn't need someone to tell me. I knew. You learn from it, you move on. You don't dwell on it, and you don't carry it. If you carry that with you, it's going to affect you. So yeah, being positive is the most important thing, I think, for any sports person in general, but especially for a jockey with the ups and downs of life.
There's obviously something I want to touch on with kind of the Irish versus the British, and you know, we go over to Cheltenham and Aintree we take on these big races. We're not afraid to take them on, and we do dominate these festivals when we go over there, but it doesn't seem to be that way when you come to Punchestown and Leopardstown, Dublin Racing Festival. There's not as many English trainers that take part. Why do you think that is?
I suppose we go over there and dominate on their home soil. They're not looking forward to coming over here then and being dominated. The cost of travelling with Brexit and all that now has made things more difficult. So it's a bit like Liverpool getting beaten by Real Madrid 5-2 at home. They're not looking forward to going over to Madrid now and playing, are they? So if the English trainers don't win races at the Cheltenham Festival, or the horse gets well beaten at Cheltenham, why would they come over and take on Willie and his home, and Gordon and Henry on their home ground? So I think that's a lot to do with it. Handicaps, I cannot understand why they don't fill all the big races, because if you have a horse in a handicap and it's in the weights, it's got its weight, it has its chance.
Yeah.
The handicapper's given it a rating where he thinks he should be competitive of. So why them big handicaps aren't filling up sometimes baffles me. And they're all really good prize money, so that just is something I can't get my head around. But I do understand why maybe there's not more horses taking on the Constitution Hills and Applutards and that of this world. So, but I think this year the Gold Cup is going to be a big field. It's going to be very competitive.
Yeah, it does. I was looking at it there the other day. Just to touch on field sizes as well, obviously they've decreased in recent years. Like, what can be done to move towards bigger fields? You know, we're seeing a lot of these races with 3 horses in them, and like, what can we do to change that?
I don't think there's a lot we can do at the moment. It's just the way that the whole thing is. I suppose in Ireland, Willie Mullins has the strongest squad. If Willie wasn't running 3 or 4 of his horses in some of these races, there'd be even smaller fields. So we have to be sort of thankful that he's not afraid to take his horses on with each other. But it's just got a little bit congregated into 1 or 2 yards. So Willie will run 3 or 4. If Henry is one good enough, he'll run it. If Gordon's one good enough, he'll run it. There's not many trainers then outside of them 3 that have horses for the big Grade 1 novice hurdles and novice chases. They're the trainers that are spending the most money in the sales ring, so they're getting the most horses. But that's the beauty also of National Hunt racing, where you do see every now and again the smaller yards coming along with a good horse for a big race. And I think it was Paddy Corkery last year won a Grade 1 in Limerick at Christmas. So the smaller yards in National Hunt racing do get a chance every now and again, and I think that will continue. But at the moment, it's just that little bit congregated between the big yards, and that's why the smaller fields, especially in the graded races, are happening. England, there's too much racing. Yeah, definitely too much racing, and I've been saying it for a long time. Both stable staff, jockeys, horses. There's too much happening. There should be no racing in England for definitely on a Monday and Tuesday. Okay, have an all-weather meeting if you want to have racing in the betting shops and all that. Have the all-weather racings on Mondays and Tuesdays, and don't have it on a Saturday and Sunday when the big national hunt meetings are on. And then vice versa in the summertime, have Monday and Tuesday no flat racing, and have your summer jumps racings on a Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah. You touched on some big names there, the likes of Gordon Elliott, Willie Mullins, but there are some, it's not always about the big money and the owners that can obviously afford these expensive horses. There's some good news stories like Shah Cannon's Uick. I think, what was he, €800 or something like that. Like, there are some good stories out there, but what fundamental changes need to be made in racing, in your opinion?
I don't know. That was like, in national hunt racing, you'll always have those stories of the small horse, the cheap horse coming through, and you'll always get a few of them. I don't think there's a whole lot we can do to change it. I think the Dublin Racing Festival is a huge market. The amount of people coming over to watch the Dublin Racing Festival is unbelievable. The coverage it's getting. Punchestown is going to be the same. We have the biggest summer festival in Galway. That's just unique, and it's a great festival. And that is where you do have very competitive racing, because the bigger trainers don't dominate there as much. You know, there's a much more of a spread on racing, and you get very competitive, good racing there. So I think we have it about right. It's just maybe a few of the bigger owners, if they were spreading around a little bit more, it might open it up a bit more. But at the moment, that's the way it is.
Get in on the action with epic offers from Boyle Sports on every race, every day of the Cheltenham Festival. Epic Cheltenham with Boyle Sports. It's time to switch.